Oh, thank you so much for finding us on a Thursday evening. Welcome to Caching in the Northwest. This is the foremost podcast from the birthplace of geocaching in the great Pacific Northwest. Each week, we're going to talk about caches and cachers from here and around the globe. So while you're busy trying to remember where you stored the winter coats, we'll be caching in the Northwest. And, we can't do that until we bring in our Nordic monkey. Some say land monkey plus anything equals a cache find. And others say only he can touch MC Hammer. All we know is he's called land monkey.
Hey, buddy, the Nordic monkey, eh? Is that the best you got for tonight? we bring in the president of geocaching.com and like, I don't know. We're just going to throw the towel in on the.
I like it. I like it.
So, Brian, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you being on the podcast. My
pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. So there you go. The secret's out, because it was a really poorly kept secret. Brian Roth's joining us tonight. We're really excited to talk. We're going to talk about the business of geocaching and what it's like to work at and lead an amazing group of people at geocaching.com. So we're really excited for this conversation with you, sir.
I'm excited too. Happy to tell you guys all about it.
Fantastic. Nice. But before we do that, I want to throw out a quick reminder that we do appreciate the support of our patrons who help to keep this very podcast coming each and every week. If you want to know more about supporting the show, go over there, click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website.
And each and every week, we like to focus on a great geocaching log. We call it the geocaching log of the week, or the glow. Whether you wrote it or whether you read it, we want to hear about it, because great logs simply make geocaching better. Send an email to feedback@cachingnw.com. Always, you can call into 253-693-TFTC or use the voicemail tool on the website and show us how you glow.
How I glow?
Yes, how you glow.
Oh, I glow in the morning. I'll tell you. It's just
I don't want to know. I worked at Hanford for a little bit. I glow all the time.
There you go. You just have this glow about you, Chris.
Yeah. I just read the great geocaching log yesterday.
Oh, you were breaking up there. Give it another go.
I said, hopefully my Wi-Fi is doing all right. But I just read a great geocache log yesterday from a woman who's visited Geocaching HQ. Her username is GeoGrins. And yesterday was her 5,000th cache find. Ironically enough, on the 8th anniversary of her first cache find.
Oh, cool.
And this is somebody for whom the game has had such a positive impact, both for her and her daughter. She's gone from sort of not leaving the United States in her entire life to traveling with her daughter, I think, to 17 countries. And she just wrote a really nice log on a special cache page. I want to say it was in California, but I'm not exactly sure. And she had sent it to me and Sven, who also works at Groundspeak, just to say, hey, I wanted you guys to see this. This is another milestone for me, and just another opportunity to say thank you. And I've always been super impressed by her and her story, but yesterday was a milestone. So if you're listening, GeoGrin, shout out to you. Congrats on your 5,000th. I really enjoyed the log.
Nice. Now, I'm going to have to go look that up and see if I can find it. We'll add it to our list of glows.
Sounds great.
Sounds like it would be a great story upvote if that was just allowed in the States.
Well, yeah, we're testing it. It's I'd personally love to see it get to the States, but we'll see what the community thinks before we go adding anything, globally.
We love it in Canada, I'll tell you that much.
Right on. And I think the Norwegians enjoyed it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Although, I mean, most of them, I think as with anything, we got feedback, and a lot of people were like, hey, we really love this. This is a great new feature. And other people were like a 0 on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of enjoying it, and let us have it. And how dare you even consider such a thing? But we'll parse that and figure out the right path. But going from Norway and then going out to Canada, I think, is a nice second step.
Absolutely. All right. Chris, do you want me to take a swing at the glow this week? You want to?
No, I'm happy to do it.
All right. You're going to cold read it yourself?
Yes. Well, this one comes from another Chris, or Rock Chalk, who happens to be in the chat with us this evening. So he can tell us if this is really true or it's completely made up. Rock Chalk was looking for She'll Be Coming. That's GC1D8. Do I ever wish I'd attempted the Round Mountain caches prior to this year? There's a washout on the road nearly 4 miles from the Round Mountain trailhead. So this expedition required a lot more effort than it would have before 2018. But I still needed to find She'll Be Coming for the Washington History Challenge. So what could I do but pile up a bunch of steps today? It's possible to squeeze past the washout. You can see the photos in his log at the trailhead, but I didn't want to chance it. Being by myself, the last thing I needed to do was get stuck. Though I should point out that I had 2 to 3 bars of LTE for nearly in the entire hike, so that was a nice surprise. Still, I didn't want to have to use that cell coverage to call AAA for a tow. I parked at the road closure sign and began the long, winding walk to the trailhead. Picnic table and toilet pit nearby. I continued up the summit, finding the caches along the way, and before finally arriving for the main target for the day. The bugs hadn't been too bad for the duration of the walk, but they came out in force as I approached ground zero for this cache. I had applied repellent, which I think helped, but there were still quite a nuisance. Having signed the log, I turned around and returned the way I came, totaling 12.41 miles on the odometer and 3,459 feet of total ascent. Definitely a much longer trip than it would have been for previous finders. In retrospect, a bike would have made the journey a bit more reasonable. Certainly, I would have been a slog on the way up, but coasting back down would have been nice. Also, I wondered the whole time whether I should try to make it past the washout with my CRV. It looks doable, but I'm glad I didn't risk it. There you have it.
Awesome. So I've done that cache. Have you done that one, Chris?
I have not.
Brian, have you done that one? The She'll Be Coming. That's near Leavenworth.
Not yet.
All right. We're a little choppy with you there, Brian. So we picked up not yet. That's what we got there from you. So
yeah, not yet is correct. I just texted Heidi and asked her to tell the kids to get off the electronics just for once. Normally we've got good bandwidth. If it really continues to be choppy, I'll just pick up my laptop and move somewhere else in the house.
Okay, so it's not too bad. Once you start talking, it picks in. So it might even be a Google thing. But anyhow,
could be Google. Could be the kids on Netflix.
Could be the buffering. So I have done that one. It's a great hike. My favorite story on that cache is that's the one we were hiking up in the summertime, and it was before the trail was washed out. So before the road was washed out. So we were able to drive up to the trailhead. We're getting close to the cache location, and we start hearing this weird grunting noise on the trail behind us. And we're thinking, bear. Oh man, that's not good. So we kind of start making lots of noise, and it's early in the morning. So we're making lots of noise and yelling and, hey, bear, what are you doing? It's shaking everything, making lots of noise. This dude comes around the corner. He says, sorry, I had something in my throat. Like, okay, well, I'm glad it was that and not a bear.
Wow.
But he seriously sounded like a bear. It was like the weirdest noises I've ever heard somebody make with something in their throat. But there you go. But
it's pretty scary to see a bear when you're out geocaching. I've been in a situation with one of the French reviewers. His name's Nick, and we went to do the ape cache in the winter. And we got to the ape cache. This was a few years ago. And the tunnel was closed because it was winter, and on the way back to the trail, we saw a bear.
Oh, yeah.
And so we went back by the cache and hung out for a little while, and then sort of head back towards the trail and made a lot of noise. But all I was thinking was, I really don't want to die today. I don't want to die geocaching. I certainly don't want a bear to be the cause of it. And on the way back, there was an old railroad tie on the ground, and I picked it up, figuring, all right, it's a rudimentary weapon, if anything. And Nick suggested to me that if it was a bear and we were in trouble, that all I needed to do was stab him with the railroad tie. Which, anyway, not that we would do that, but it was a funny moment. But still, I was scared.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to turn the corner and run into an upset mama bear, for example.
You didn't want the ape cache to be renamed the Brian Roth Memorial Geocache?
Indeed. And although it would be quite the honor, it's not exactly what I'm going for.
There you go.
Oh, I should tell a bear story in the after show.
There we go. Yeah.
It's not geocaching related. It was before geocaching.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. Definitely. We'll get that in the after show. We did have a question, Brian, for you from a fellow who sent the glow in, Chris Ronan. You may know him.
Yeah, I think I know him. He beats me in ping pong every chance he gets.
Well, that may affect the answer to his question, but he said, I'd like to ask Brian if I can come to work late tomorrow since I'm staying up late to watch his interview.
See, the funny thing is, Chris is a professional, and he knows he doesn't have to ask permission to do anything.
There you go.
So, Chris, come in whatever time you want.
There you go. Good stuff. Chris,
Brian will be watching, but come in whatever time you want.
I'm paying attention. Oh, yeah. I'm paying attention.
Oh, let's see.
Yeah,
Three Hams asked, I posted a selfie on Facebook from GCF of myself with Brian and vlogger Joshua. My mom asked if I'd been invited to go caching with them as I cache so much. No, Mom, that's just how it works. It's just not how it works.
Yeah.
Well, let me know anytime. I'm happy to go out.
Oh, well.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Sounds like fun.
There you go. We got an event in Victoria we'll talk to you about later.
When is it?
Next weekend.
Ooh,
next Sunday.
that might
8
be
days.
difficult.
Awesome. Well, we'll segue into the questions we have for you tonight. We are pleased to be able to chat with Brian Roth of geocaching.com about the business of geocaching. But before we get into some of these great questions we've put together, Brian, how is your week going?
My week is going well. Yeah, it's going well. It's we have our holiday party for the company tomorrow night, so that's really exciting. It's always a time, sort of end of year, to reflect on the year and just think about really how fortunate we are to get to work as a team, doing the work that we do, helping to serve the community. So that's always, it's a fun time to reflect. But this week in particular, we had a new director of product start. And I know everybody at the company is very excited about having her join us. And then all day today was interesting. Today and tomorrow, I have a continuing legal education seminar. In order to be a licensed attorney, I have to get a certain amount of credits every 3 years. My reporting year is this year, and so I have a 2-day seminar that'll get me about 12 of the 48 required credits. So what was interesting was, rather than go to the physical seminar downtown, I decided I was going to do a webinar from the office. I set up my laptop, tuned in, and I had the treadmill. So I have a treadmill desk that I aspire to walk on more than I do. And today I said, all I have to do is stare at this computer screen and pay attention. So I turned the treadmill on, and the rough stats for today, and this is a record for me personally, at least with this treadmill at my desk. Today at my desk, I walked 11.4 miles, over 30,000 steps, burned 1,004 calories, and the total walking time, I want to say, was 5 hours and 47 minutes. So I realized that doesn't exactly involve the business of geocaching, but that was my day. And so it makes for an unusual end to the week. I think tomorrow I'm probably going to sit at home on my couch and watch it on my laptop, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to walk, but it was worth it.
That's cool. Sounds like a great week. Sounds like a great day. And it sounds like you got a really fun evening coming up tomorrow. So
Yeah, it's gonna be great. It's one of my favorite nights of the year, is just to get to celebrate. You know, I think if you like the company that you work with, then the holiday party is always fun. I've had the good fortune, certainly through Groundspeak, of having some really fun holiday parties, and even at previous companies, I don't recall a bad one. I think that everybody's got you hear the stories of the bad holiday parties or something that goes awry. Thankfully, I don't have too many of those stories to that I remember. I guess that's saying something in itself, but it's not exactly what I meant to say. We're looking forward to a fun night tomorrow night. Can't wait to celebrate with the lackeys. It'll be fun.
Well, speaking of the lackeys and geocaching.com in general, you guys have won a gold award in entertainment from the Tech Impact Awards. I mean, that's amazing. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Seattle Business Magazine has something called the Tech Impact Awards, where essentially they recognize Seattle companies in a variety of different categories, recognize that these Seattle companies are having a global impact. And this year, we got selected in the entertainment category for the Gold Award. And yeah, it was really nice. There was a dinner that took place at I think it's called Mopop now, but the Paul Allen Experience Music Project. There were a lot of different business leaders there, and it was a nice night out. We had I want to say there were 8 to 10 lackeys who showed up. Jeremy was there as well. Carly was there, and Linda and some other folks from the marketing team. And we got to have a nice dinner. We got to see some of the other companies get recognized. One of them that stands out is Code.org. So they had one of the founders of Code.org, and they're getting, kids all over the world coding, which is really amazing. And we got to, once they called our names, we got to get up and give a little speech, which was really fun. And I guess for what it's worth, we talked about geocaching, of course, for the people who didn't necessarily know. And I kind of gave a synopsis of what the game is and went through some statistics about the number of events and cytos and just logs and how that represents, an individual or a family or a couple's experience outside. And then one of the things important that we did was we said to everybody in the audience, essentially, for what it's worth, when it comes to this impact, as a company, we can't take credit ourselves. This is not just us creating this impact. And in fact, this takes the community volunteer reviewers and translators. It takes the cache hiders. It takes the people that are hosting events. It really, so when we accepted the award, it was important for us to accept it on behalf of the community, because the impact from this game doesn't just come from geocaching headquarters. We know it, geocachers know it. And I think it was nice for everybody in the audience to actually get to hear it.
That's really cool. That sounds really exciting. I'm curious to hear from you what the response back at the office was regarding receiving that award. So how did that impact the rest of the team at geocaching.com? And has that changed anything for the team since that award was recognized?
It's funny. I guess the short answer is that it had almost no impact.
Okay.
And for those of us who were there, it was a really fun evening, and it's nice to be recognized. It's local recognition, but when we come back to the office, there are certain things we'll celebrate. We'll celebrate the release of the new version of the mobile application, when we change some functionality that we think is a new kind of gift to the community, or if there's new functionality being released on the website, or if we're solving some problem that was challenging to solve. Those are really the things we celebrate. Getting recognition like that, honestly, it's nice, but it doesn't affect what we do. We sort of, I think we put the trophy up in the Signal Cafe, and funny enough, I couldn't tell you where it is right now, and not to diminish the nature of the award, but it's sort of like, hey, let's get back to doing what it is that we do, and how much time do we really want to take to celebrate? It's like, all right, great, we got this, cool, everybody share the joy for a moment, and let's get back to having an impact, which I think is really the important aspect of it.
Very cool. Yeah, and I like that the team sounds like they're really grounded, that it's great, thank you, but we're already on a trajectory here. We're going to keep going with that. This is what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, I think, for the people that work at geocaching headquarters, there's not a lot of sort of seeking of glory. We're not doing this to be famous. We're not doing this to get recognized so much. I think that people really take the fact that we're making people's lives more fun around the world. I think we take that seriously, and so if that's the most important thing, it creates a really good work environment, because you're not looking for, oh, who needs the pat on the back. Even as a company, do we really need the pat on the back? Not so much from the business community. We want our customers, we want the geocaching community to appreciate the work we're doing. That's what really counts. So it's nice to get those awards. I mean, even the Outside Magazine's Best Place to Work award, it's been 8 years. We're really pleased with that, because it reflects upon the office environment and the culture. And I know we can talk about that a little bit later, but it's really about what it is that we're working on, and trying to have an impact as a company. I appreciate hearing those conversations as often as I do around headquarters.
Very, very cool. I'm curious. So you've talked about the response within geocaching.com and not only the Tech Impact Award, but as you said, Outside Magazine for, what is it, 8 years in a row has recognized geocaching.com as one of the best places to work, which is fantastic. Does all that kind of recognition you guys have been getting over the last several years, does that open any new doors for geocaching.com, as not only as a business, but also, of course, the hobby and all that kind of stuff?
Definitely. I think on a number of fronts. So first of all, any exposure potentially, how did all the people in the audience find out about the game of geocaching? For some people, it was a magazine article they read, or a cache that they randomly stumbled upon. Some people, it was a news piece on television or something similar. And so for every bit of acknowledgement that we get as a company, that's another opportunity for people to hear about the game. It's also an opportunity for them to hear about the company, of course. And I think that from a recruiting standpoint, sure, we would love to have smart, talented people who are interested in doing the kind of work that we're doing, hear about us and potentially check out the jobs and send in a resume and say, hey, I'm interested in hearing more. So from that standpoint, that award and those awards and that recognition is really, really fantastic. And I think from a business perspective, it helps as well for potential partnerships and promotions, or travel and tourism programs. Maybe there's a destination that hears about it and says, we'd love to bring geocachers to our town. Like, what could they possibly do? What can we do together? And it's like, oh, let us tell you about Geo Tours, or let us tell you about the DuckTales promotion that we did a bunch of months ago, and maybe put together something that, particularly when it comes from a business standpoint, we always talk about win-win-wins. And I think I've mentioned this with you guys before, but it's how do we put together partnerships or relationships or projects or promotions that create a win for the community, some sort of tangible ROI for our partner, and win for the company. And the win for the company can come in many forms. Sometimes it's revenue, sometimes it's generating awareness. Sometimes it's a combination of the two. But if we can do that, where the community is getting something that resonates positively with them, and then whatever company this is or whatever destination this is sort of gets access to essentially market their destination or market their products to the geocaching community in a way that is not offensive or not sort of taking advantage of the community, but almost like giving them a fun aspect of the game that's additive. Those kind of things are always what we're looking for. And so when these awards come out, again, I think it's another opportunity for individuals to hear about us, but also for businesses to hear about us.
So very true. Win, win, win.
Win, win, win.
Yeah. Now
it's in our business development. We have two divisions. So we have travel and tourism division, and we have a partnerships and promotions division. And for the business development team at large, our working agreement, the mission statement is basically, I can't say it verbatim, but it's essentially that we work to create win-win-win relationships, and then we kind of describe what that means, which is essentially what I just did.
What a great idea to putting that right into the mission statement for that group. I like that.
Yeah.
I love it. Now, Seattle, and by extension, the Northwest, is one of the more competitive environments to attract and retain talent, especially in the tech area. When you're seeking new team members or new lackeys to join geocaching.com, what are the qualities you're looking for in the forefront with these people?
There's really a lot of qualities that we're looking for. I think first and foremost, subject matter expertise in whatever discipline they're in. So if they're applying for an HR position or a marketing position or a mobile engineering position or product, we want them to have experience doing that, unless it's an entry-level position. But for the most part, we want people who know what they're doing. We want people who have an appreciation for the work that we're doing as a company and our mission. I think I've shared our mission in the past, and maybe you've seen it elsewhere, but it's to inspire and enable discovery, exploration, and adventure. So I think it means a lot to every one of the lackeys that works at Geocaching HQ. We want to know that at least it's going to resonate positively with these candidates. An understanding of the game, an appreciation for the worldwide community. I think those are really important. Self-starter. One of the things about HQ is there's not a lot of micromanagement that goes on. We don't really have time for that because all of the managers are working managers. We all work, and we're all, aside from, I guess I would say there's no middle management. Everybody is working. So there's really not a lot of time to not be productive in a way, because there's just so much to do, and there's so many opportunities that we want to get after. So you have to be a self-starter. You have to be self-motivated. And I think a lot of the motivation can come from the mission and the appreciation for the community. But at the end of the day, you can't exactly be somebody who needs direction at every turn. Like, hey, what should I do, A or B? What should I do, C or D? And then the next question, it has to be more, hey, I understand what it is I'm doing. I understand what we're trying to do as a company. For the most part, I'm going to be able to get after that, and I'm going to be able to figure it out. And certainly if I need help, there's a group of people around me who are happy to provide guidance. But micromanagement isn't really what we're looking for. It's not very effective.
No,
I don't think people like it either.
No.
I mean, there are some people who like it, not the kind of people that are at headquarters.
There you go. Yeah.
In my experience, that's what I would say.
When I'm hearing you talk about that, Brian, the thought that goes through my mind is a phrase that I've used with teams that I lead, and it's come to me with suggestions and recommendations, not problems. And it helps people take like what they think is a problem, they perceive as a problem, and go, okay, I actually am enabled by my leader to now try and turn this around and come to him and say, I encountered this. I think we should do that. And I think then you're in a position where you can provide some guidance, right? As opposed to dictating steps. Right.
And particularly when it pertains to another discipline, hey, you're the expert. I'm not the expert, and this is your day-to-day job. So the first question, and I think it's it's a good question always, and it's especially when you're working with other people and they come to you with a problem. It's, what do you think? What do you think we should do? And 95% of the time, people have a pretty good idea of what you should do. And I think by we're allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to get things wrong. And so more often than not, I think what we want to show everybody who works at HQ is, hey, we trust you to make the right decision. Unless it's, if it sounds really outlandish, I'm going to say, hey, that sounds really outlandish. Maybe consider this. But otherwise, if it sounds like a reasonable approach, absent some other idea, okay, give it a shot. Make it work. See what you can do. And I think that's the kind of empowerment that you're talking about.
Empowerment, yeah, absolutely. So that's really neat. It's interesting. So we're talking about recruiting, and Brian, one of my favorite things to learn from leaders in the industry is, what is to you the most important question you can ask a potential new lackey during the interview process? So like if there was only one question that you really want to get an answer out of the interview process for, what would that be?
So there are two threshold questions, and I hate to give you a second one, but I think you'll understand when I say that. So the first question, and I'll ask everybody, unless I already know the answer, is, have you geocached before? And the reason that is such a critical question is not because we're looking for avid geocachers to fit every position, but because at a bare minimum, it's a sign that they're prepared for the interview. If you're applying for a job at geocaching headquarters and you haven't gone out and found at least one cache, then we're wasting our time, because you're showing me that essentially, unless there's a really good excuse for why you couldn't, and I say there are very few really good excuses for why you can't find one cache. So that's a question that I'll always ask as a threshold question. But one of the most important questions for me that I like to ask is, I'll ask people, tell me, what are you passionate about? What is it you're passionate about, and help me understand why. And let people talk for a minute about something that they're passionate about, or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And I think you really get a feel for the type of person that you're sitting across from, whether it's a in-person interview or a Skype interview or something like that. So that's really my question. But if they haven't geocached, it almost doesn't matter to me. And maybe I'm being a little unfair, but I don't know. I think it's a preparedness question more than it is a passion about the game question.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, if you went to go work at, I don't know, probably not a great example, but if you went to apply for a job at Google, and you asked them a question like, have you used Google before? And they're like, I don't know. I'm kind of.
I really am stuck on Bing, and Bing's all I'm going to use.
Yeah, right. So I get where you're coming from with that, Brian. With the threshold question, it makes total sense.
Yep. So those are my questions.
Cool. Thank you. Chris, do you want to go for the next one?
Yeah. What is it about working for geocaching.com that attracts potential lackeys to want to join, and then keeps them engaged and energized just to stay on?
There's a few things. The mission as a company, I think the ability that we have to have an impact on people's lives on a global scale is something that appeals to a lot of people, and not everybody, but it appeals to a lot of people. I think as a company, I think we take really good care of our employees. We have a really nice office environment that we've invested in a really nice location, and direct proximity to the Burke-Gilman Trail. So if you want to go out at lunch and ride a bike for 60 miles in one direction, you can do that, because it's such a nice trail. Really, the benefits and the perks, certainly. The people, really, you guys have met a bunch of the lackeys over time, and we are surrounded by really good people, smart, driven, caring, passionate, you name it, effective. So I think when you're looking for a work environment and you could go somewhere where the work that you're doing is meaningful and you're well taken care of, and you're surrounded by good people who are sort of doing the same thing, I think that that's really appealing. And it doesn't appeal to everybody. You know, there's folks out there who are saying, you know, I want to join a company who's going to have an IPO in 6 months so I can cash out and go sip mimosas on the beach. And that's not us. You know, we're a bootstrap company. We've been bootstrapped for 18 years now. We're not looking for outside investment or to be bought or to go do anything crazy like an IPO. Like, no way. What we're looking to do is keep doing what we're doing, and ideally do it better year after year. Build a better platform, build better tools to give to this community so that the community can create incredible experiences and share them with other people who can go out and have fun. And if we do that, that's the best kind of success. And so that's our kind of success. So when people join the company, my sense is that they're joining it for those reasons, and hopefully they appreciate it and get as much out of it as I do and stay on. You know, we have a lot of long-standing employees at HQ, and it's in a way it's like a family, and it's fun to see some of the new folks. We had, as I said, a new director of product start on Tuesday, and we had a new, I want to say, a UX designer also start on Tuesday. And it's exciting to see them sort of come in and participate in. We have an intensive onboarding program where they're taught all about geocaching and the community, and we take them out caching with GPS devices and with mobile phones, and we really try and spend, I want to say it's a 2-week program where they meet all the different teams and they have all these interactive experiences to get to understand excuse me, what it is that we're trying to do and how we do it, and to see the excitement on their faces in their first few days. And I always, anytime I see them, I'll say, are you having fun? Are you enjoying yourself? You know, it's day 3. You having a good time yet? And invariably they're like, I can't believe how cool this is. Like, I want to do more. And it's like, great, let's talk about work-life balance. You got to go home. You got to spend time with your family. You have to do other stuff aside from working. And that's important also. And so as a company, let's have a good work-life balance. Let's get after our mission. Let's do well on behalf of this community that we're serving. And at the same time, if we can make a living doing that, that's as good as it gets.
Ryan, I've got another question for you, and we're starting to go into culture here in what we're talking about. But before I get to that question, I want to echo back to you a little bit of what I just heard from you, and it sounds a little bit like the answer to Chris's question about how do you attract and retain people is kind of a snowball effect, because you started with building this culture based on these really sound principles. Well, and maybe, as you say, maybe to others, those aren't sound principles, but they're principles that are important to you and Jeremy and everybody who started there, and the small group that started this, and you've continued to add people in that. Do you feel that it kind of snowballs, that the more people you add in, the bigger the culture gets, the deeper it ingrains?
Yes, absolutely. The deeper it ingrains, but also it's, so Jeremy, Elias, and I, we worked at other companies together before starting this. And, you know, I feel very fortunate that they share similar ideals to me, you know, in treating people well and treating people with respect and taking care of the people that we get to work with, and creating a positive work environment, and, you know, trying to make the right decisions for the benefit of the global community. So what I would like to say is, like, the culture that you see today wasn't some grand design. It wasn't like we sat down with pen and paper and said, this is what we want to create. The culture that you see today is the product of 10,000 individual decisions made with a certain set of values. And what's interesting is the original decisions, sure, were made by us as a group of 3. But you're right, as we've added people, they have sort of picked up the baton and helped to make those decisions. And they've brought, you know, they've helped to fine tune the values. And so what you see here is values from different people throughout the company and throughout the community that have kind of been brought together. And I'd like to think that we kept the good ones and tried to dispense with the bad ones. And so what we see now is, you're right, this self-perpetuating culture where the everybody is protective of it. They know how special it is. And so we talk a lot. Jennifer Arterburn is our vice president of business and legal affairs. She's like our primary attorney. She's been with us now for 7.5, almost 8 years. It's been a while. And Jennifer came from a law practice, super smart. One of the things that we always say when we have employment related decisions, we talk about what is the human thing to do, not what is the money driven or the business driven. It's what's the human thing. And as long as that always has to be a consideration in the decision making. And if we do that, I think we end up with, by and large, what we have now. And who knows what the next decisions will be as we go forward. But I think as long as we bring the right values and the right perspective to it, we've got a pretty good chance of making the right decisions and helping to perpetuate this culture further.
What is the human thing? I like that. It just feels like it echoes what I've experienced in interacting with the lackeys at events, when I've had the pleasure of visiting HQ. Definitely just a real personable feel. And that segues us, I think, really nicely into my next question for you, Brian, if you don't mind.
Don't mind at all.
Awesome. So you're in the tech industry. I mean, you're in the game industry, you're in the tech industry. It's a tech game. Technology is all about change. And we know how people tend to respond to change. I mean, we've seen the history of the game and such. But there's a lot of change, obviously, as you guys grow, as you try new things. There's a lot of change internal to the team at HQ, to the lackeys. How do you guys manage the response to change within your teams at HQ?
Change within each team from a technological perspective?
Well, the human side. So, we were talking about what's the human thing to do? How do you guys manage the impact of changes to the business as you guys grow, as you try new areas of the business? It's all going to have an impact on the people.
Absolutely. I think from a starting point, we have some principles like make better mistakes tomorrow. That's one of them. We have an innovation objective where we say to everybody, regardless of what your position is or what your job is, consider ways that you can innovate in your role. So I think we're constantly challenging ourselves to adapt to changes internally and externally. So, from a personnel standpoint, I think some of the harder things to adapt to is when you have people leave. If you have somebody go to another company or move out of state and say, hey, I have to, I'm hanging up my lackey wings or whatever you want to call it. That's hard because, as I said, we've got this culture and it, in a way, it feels like a family. And so, especially in the early years when it was 5 of us or 10 of us or even 15 of us, if one person would leave, it's like, wow, that's a significant percent of our organization, of the people that we know. It still feels that impact when folks leave. And so oftentimes there's I think you go through the range of emotions when your friends move on for whatever reason, whether they're there for 6 months or whether they're there for 15 years. It's like, okay, we want to wish them well, but we know that this place won't be exactly the same next time. And so that's the hard aspect of it. One of the positive aspects of it is that, all right, who's walking through the door next? What kind of change is that going to bring about? How are we going to adapt to that? One of the things that I really love, and I see it at geocaching headquarters, but it springs from the community. And here's what I'll describe is when we get a new person who comes to join us at Geocaching HQ, they are truly welcome with open arms. And I think that that's very similar to what we see out in the world of geocaching. If there's a new player who shows up at the event, they are welcome with open arms, and people want to talk to them, and they want to share the game with them, and they want to tell them what they like and give them tips and tricks. And it's very similar to what happens internally at HQ. And I think that, I'm not sure what came first. Maybe it sort of developed from the same kind of geocaching ethos, but that's something that I think helps us adapt to that kind of change, because people are genuinely excited to see, okay, we have gone through the interview process. This is the person that we chose to join this company. They're arriving in a way that's already set up for success, because we want them to succeed. It's important for them to succeed. So they are welcome, they are supported, just like a geocacher attending their first geocaching event.
Nice. Now, moving on, we've got all these people. You've got about 250 work days in a year. If you were able to pull one of your most memorable moments from the office this year, what would it be for you?
Memorable moments from the office. I think one of my favorite moments this year was recently attending the GIF Film Festival. I really do. It's something that I really love to see it. For me, like, one of the things that I'm really passionate about when it comes to this game is the people, and watching the interactions and the way people play around the world. And so to sit down and see films from geocachers from all over the world sharing their stories, or sharing their humor, or their way of playing, or even their thoughts on what the game means to them, it's so powerful. And it's funny, because I actually have a few videos from years past that every so often I will go back and I will watch them, just to remind myself how important the work that we all do as a community, how important it is. So this year, I thought GIF was fantastic. The quality of the films was really good. Just the fact that as a community, there were 650 something events, 600 plus events all over the world, with people sharing these stories of geocaching. That for me is about as powerful as it gets. And it's funny, because we talk about story-worthy moments at headquarters. It's part of what we're trying to accomplish, is helping people to create story-worthy moments for themselves. So when we get to share them, and we get to witness them in that type of format, I think it's really powerful, not just for us, but for everybody. And I think it helps to bring us all together as a community, and make us feel like, wow, we are, despite the distance and cultural differences, as people, we're really so similar. So for me, I think this year's GIF, absolute highlight, hands down.
Well, there was also this charming FaceTime guy in one of the videos.
Yeah, I got a cameo this year. That was a real treat. Those guys are super cool. Benny Goranschitz. I've known him now for years. I did an interview with him and his wife many years ago in Mainz, Germany. And Bernard Hoeker, he's the famous comedian in Germany who, I would say, deserves a lot of credit for the popularity of geocaching in Germany. And so when I got the call from Benny, and he said, hey, would you consider, doing a cameo? I said, yeah, it was kind of nice to be asked. I said, that sounds like a lot of fun. And then the lackeys who got to review the films knew. But here I was sitting in a theater, kind of in the back, waiting for that film to come on. And when it came on and everybody laughed, yeah, it felt great. It was really a lot of fun. It was a special moment, that's for sure.
Yeah, you didn't have a lot of lines in that part, but your position was pretty clear. So.
Yeah, no dialogue. Well, it's funny. I'll tell you a little behind the scenes story. You ready? So he had originally, I said, okay, let me know what you want me to do. And the first time he sent it to me, he said, okay, here's the story. I'm trying to place a cache. There's proximity issues. So what I'd really love for you to do is he wants to call me and have me say, sure, I'll help you, and like almost like push down a plunger and then blow up all of the caches. And I said, blowing up caches and sort of bombs and any sort of violence, I'm like, it just doesn't feel right. Like, I can't do that. What else do you have? And so he came back the next time and he's like, what if aliens kind of zap the caches, but you can say no, you just have to shake your head on the phone. I was like, done. Let me know what you want. And I did a few of those clips, and most of them were awful, but the last one I was like, okay, this will do. So that's the behind the scenes of that making of that fun film.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that little tidbit. One of the questions we actually have live from the chat for you, Brian, UDAC in the chat is asking, using hashtag Ask Brian, since we're talking about GIF videos, the question is, aside from the GIF videos, why is gc.com no longer putting out new or regular YouTube videos?
So we used to have a videographer on staff. Her name was Reed, and she was extremely talented. Some of those old videos are really, really wonderful. One of the challenges that we had was it took a lot of effort to produce that kind of content. And really, if you look at the views on that content, it just despite us putting it out there and putting it in emailers, people just weren't watching it nearly as much as we would have liked them to. And so it wasn't really a decision where we're like, all right, let's just close it down and get rid of our videographer. Basically, Reed came to us at one point and said, hey, I'm looking to do something else as well. And so when she left, we said, all right, should we try and hire somebody else? First of all, she's a really tough act to follow because she's so talented. But we said, all right, given the impact and the reach that we're getting with these films, maybe let's try and focus our efforts, resources, and attention on doing other things. So I know that Reed helps out with the GIF film reel. So she comes back and does a little part-time work. But we really haven't produced one of those feature mini films in a long time. But it's funny because I'll look back, the ones that I like the most, for what it's worth, I like some of those April Fool's films that we did. There's the Cachers of Steel. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's really, I thought it was pretty hysterical. And then there was the Journey to the Center of the Earth cache was a really good one. I don't remember, but there's some good films out there. I would never say never, but I don't think we have any plans to get back to full-fledged video production anytime soon.
Well, I think it points out, though, again, the culture aspect, right? Like that you guys would get together and you're like, you know what would be fun? Let's do this, and put the effort and the time into doing that. You get a group of the people. I'm thinking even at Halloween, the blog post where you had a bunch of the different folks from the team dress up. I had such a hoot when I saw Ronan's picture come out there as the travel bug. I mean, just everybody having a good time with stuff, and it just seems to consistently come out, and I think it really reflects on the culture that has been built and is snowballed, and that everybody is taking a piece of responsibility in maintaining that culture.
Yeah, and also I think everybody is looking and saying, hey, this is really great, how can we make it better? Which is the same thing that we're trying to do when we look at the game. I know Chris recently sent out the cache quality survey. That's something where it's a big step, and for everybody out there, like, we want to hear from people and tell us, how can we do a better job with cache quality? And I think by getting the input from the community, it's not just feedback that helps provide direction, but it's also the go-ahead. It's saying, like, hey, we want you to do this. Make some changes. Make this game better with us. So we're really excited to see the results. So for anybody who hears this, please fill out the survey, and then and we're going to take a look, and we're going to see what we can do to improve upon the game in that way. And then, at the same time, we're always looking at the platform. We're looking at, at the website, at the mobile applications, at different projects, at different promotions. We're trying to get better. So when it comes to the culture, yeah, you're right. People are looking around and they're saying, wow, Halloween seems to be a thing here. I guess I should dress up. I guess I should put some effort into my costume. So Halloween's a lot of fun at headquarters. Another fun one that we do is we call it Corporate Day, because not a very corporate-y work environment, because there's no need to be. So once a year we have Corporate Day. I don't know if it's once a year. I think we did it last year, and we might have skipped a year, but we've done it quite a few times. And it's just an acknowledgement like, hey, we're not a corporate-y company, but for one day, go dress like we are. And so it's like the opposite of Casual Friday. People will wear suits and ties and business dresses and pantsuits and all that kind of stuff. And people get into it. And it's one of those things where when you can get dressed up, whether it's for Halloween or for Corporate Day, or, and just look at each other and bring out a big smile, like those smiles go a long way. The friendships go a long way. And I always, it's a personal belief of mine that if you can truly be friends with the people that you work with, that it's such a powerful tool for problem solving. And it's a powerful tool to get you through when the times are challenging, because you care about the people that you work with, and you want success, not just for yourself, but for everybody around you. And when as a company, we're saying we want success for the company and we want success for the community, it creates kind of a winning formula, and it builds upon itself. You're absolutely right.
Very cool. Brian, I want to point out we're at almost an hour already in this conversation with you. We have lots more stuff we want to get through. We're really enjoying this, but we also want to respect your time. Are you good to keep going?
I'm good to go. Yep.
Okay.
My wife seems to be cool with it, and my dog is passed out on the couch. I'm going to show you my dog passed out on the couch. She's right there in that little blanket. Hey, Allie, up. There she is. So yeah, I think we're good to go. So I'm happy to answer whatever you want.
Cool, man. Thanks. So we'll keep going. So switching gears just a little bit. Let me phrase this, or give a little background to this question. We'll dig into this one. This is one that I'm personally really curious about, and I think a lot of our listeners will be too. So given that HQ, as we know, is in Seattle, Washington, but the game of geocaching is played globally, how do you guys manage to stay culturally relevant in other countries? And I'm thinking of things outside of the idea of translation services, but how do you keep your finger on the pulse of different cultural impacts and interpretations of gameplay and the expectations that'll have on you, on that team, that culture at HQ from other areas of the world?
There's really more than a few ways that we do that.
Okay.
I can go into a couple of them, or the community volunteers around the world. I think that's really a primary source of insight and suggestions and feedback to us, because the community volunteers are essentially ambassadors within their local communities. They are letting us know, hey, Groundspeak or Geocaching HQ, you need to know about this, or this is happening in this area, or people need something from you in this place, or there's frustration here that needs to be dealt with. So that's really the help that we get, and the insight and the feedback from the community volunteers it's extraordinary. And I think that's one of the most important factors in having us aware and able to act like an international company, despite the fact that we're headquartered here in Seattle. Another thing that we do is we send lackeys all over the world to mega and giga events. It's something that we feel is very important, because we want the community to get to see who we are. And, the goal is to send any lackey that wants to go. We want to find an opportunity to send them to different locations around the world, to interact with people. And it's a two-way learning, because not only does the community get to learn directly from whichever lackey is there about who we are, what we're trying to accomplish, and kind of ask questions and things, but the lackeys, and especially lackeys who haven't been around for so long, get to go out and see really the actual impact. Go to an event in Germany or France or the Netherlands or Sweden or you name it, and see the community out celebrating this game. Go to a mega event. Everybody at that mega event is choosing to be there because it's important to them, because they care. And so I see it all the time when lackeys come back from events, and this is new lackeys especially, but the old timers, without hesitation, without question, they come back and they say, I am reinvigorated. I understand more than ever why this is so important, and why it is that we're trying to work hard to do better by these people, because they deserve it. And now I've seen it firsthand. So that's a second way. A third way is we have a number of international speaking folks at the company. We have some folks who were born in Germany. We have French speaking. I'm trying to think, Spanish, Portuguese. I think that those are the local languages. But we have a number of people who have been immersed one way or another in these international cultures, and they keep their finger on the pulse. They're watching the Facebook groups, or participating in the Facebook groups, or interfacing with local cachers, just to get feedback and insight. I'm trying to think. So another way, I guess, there's two other ways that I would mention. I kind of touched on a little bit, but active participation in social media. That's one of the ways. So there's a number of Facebook groups that I participate in, and I love to see them talking about it, whether it's the Geocachers of West Tennessee or the NYC Cachers or some of the other groups out there, just going in and seeing, what is everybody talking about? Maybe I'll add something to the conversation from time to time. Other times I'll just kind of pay attention, and it's not just me doing it. The community engagement team is doing it. They're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, engaging actively with the community. There are there's a lot of that going on as well. And then the final thing I would say is, and it's an interesting one because it has a different kind of importance, but the truth is, over the years, we've developed real friendships with so many people around the world, people that I love out there, that I miss when I don't get to see them, and that I look forward to traveling just for the opportunity to spend time with them. It's one of we've been blessed to have that, access as a result of the job that we get to do. And so from time to time, I'll get a message from a friend, or I'll get a phone call or a FaceTime call from a good friend of mine in Belgium who I stayed at houses, and they've come out and vacationed with us in the past. And, we'll get a FaceTime call, and he'll say, "Hey, Brian, I have to tell you something. This is a special story that you should know about," or "This is a challenge that's going on." And so through all of those factors, it's sort of a two-way information flow. And I think, we're not perfect, but we do a pretty decent job of staying in tune with what's happening worldwide, thanks to our efforts, but really thanks to the efforts of people throughout the community.
That's a lot more than I was expecting when I asked that question, but in a really good way. I was really curious about it. It was something I just, it's something that had puzzled me, of how do you do that from one location? But I really like that two-way street approach that you're talking about, that it's not just the folks at HQ finding different channels to poke out. It's the folks at HQ having open ears and open eyes, and being receptive to what the community is willing to bring back to the table as well.
And it's active participation in the community. We say at HQ, we are geocachers. And in the past, you know, I would say 5, 10 years ago, if you would have looked across the company, there were some really active geocachers, and there were some people who didn't really play at all. These days, it's changed drastically over the last few years, and we've created incentive programs and opportunities for people to learn more about the community and the game, and engage with the game. And so today, we say, like, we are geocachers. And so by even participating in the game, whether it's domestically or internationally, you know, we gain access to even more insight and information.
Chris, you want to jump in there?
Certainly. There's a question in the chat from you, Dak. Brian, how do you retain volunteers without compensation?
Well, the volunteers are they're working for the community. You know, this is really a partnership. They're not our employees. We don't really get to hire them or fire them. You know, reviewers, for example, are selected by other reviewers. They're nominated by other reviewers, and, you know, they get access to powers that we provide. But in general, it's kind of, they are members of the community who are giving their time for the benefit of their friends and their family and their neighbors and community. So I guess over time, everybody has to make a choice every single day. You know, what do I want to give? Where do I want to spend my time? And for this group of people, they feel it's important enough to give their time to play a stewardship role of the game in this way. And so sometimes people say, listen, I want to go do something else. I'm ready for a break. And, you know, what are we going to say? Oh no, you have to stay. They're truly volunteers. And so retaining them, I think what's important is what they want to see from us is they want to see us doing right by the community, honoring the effort and the time that they're putting in through our effort and time. So I think if we're doing that effectively, well, then I think that resonates positively, and there's perhaps more of that intangible incentive for them to continue being involved. If we were a bunch of jerks and we were just trying to, like, you know, not do right or not treat the community well, maybe they would all just tell us, you know, to pound sand and be like, hey, we're done, you know, go do this on your own. And then it's, you know, then this game would cease to exist, and certainly in the form that it is now. So retaining them, I think it's really a matter of the nature of the game and the value of the community, and the impact that this game has on people's lives is why they're volunteering their time to support it. And so long as that's there, whether it's an individual volunteer or the person who wants to step up after them, I think this partnership gets to continue in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The word partnership, I think, is really important there, and it feels to me like it keeps rolling back into this core culture that Geocaching HQ has, that is caught on by the passionate volunteers, in all the different roles that I know there's reviewers, but there's a lot of other volunteers in the community. And it sounds like, and, you know, from all the volunteers I've ever met, everybody kind of has that same, as you called it, the geocaching ethos.
Yeah, it's an understanding and an appreciation of the community and who we all are together. And I think when we look at it as, look, we're all part of one community. This isn't, geocaching.com doesn't own this. We don't own geocaching. We don't own the community. We're in this together. And so as a community, it's really powerful what it is that we are doing for one another. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people involved. And you're right, you know, we talk about the volunteers, and there's community volunteers sort of formally when it comes to the reviewers, the forum moderators, and the translators. But look at the people who are putting on mega events and giga events, or even hosting an event in the pizza place in their own neighborhood. They are giving their time to give something to this community, their volunteer efforts are just as important as the rest of them.
So very well said. So very well said. We have another question. This one comes from Keepers of the Cash Flow. Now, another Seattle-based tech company has recently made a big splash in the news looking for a second headquarters. Is there a point that HQ feels they need to establish other locations in other countries or in other states?
I think it depends. Right now, we're not actively considering it. We're looking for another headquarters. I think in part it's because we feel that we're able to be effective internationally based in Seattle, given those many ways that we interact with the community to sort of have the information flowing in both directions. I think if there was a real reason for us to be in a specific place, we would consider it. The challenge is, would we open a second office in the United States? Probably not. I don't think that makes much sense. But to go and open an office internationally, maybe there's some things we can do with that. If there's an international HQ that's more convenient for people to visit, maybe it would make international merchandise shipments a little bit easier. At the same time, that's a pretty complicated process. It's expensive. The tax implications and the legal implications and the employment implications are pretty significant. And so, again, it becomes a question of resources, where right now we're about 80 people in Seattle. How many of those 80 people would have to focus on sorting all of those details out in order for us to open another office? How much money would it take that could otherwise be applied to maybe hiring more engineers or more community engagement people or stuff like that? So those kind of decisions we've talked about in the past, and so far, and at least I think for the near future, at least as far as I could see, I think we're doing just fine in Seattle. It's efficient. It feels effective. If it starts to feel less so, then maybe we'll consider it. Or if there's some compelling reason for us to consider it, yeah, we would probably talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Now, this next question you've answered in part when we were talking about the videos and the videographer Reed. What metrics and feedback from your customers are the most helpful in making business decisions about where to take the game next?
I think a lot of the research that we do. So we do a lot of user insight gathering. So we'll have teams that go out domestically and internationally and talk with the customers and show them examples of the app and say, do you like it this way or this way? Or just observe them playing and say, oh, it seems like you have a challenge with this. This is something we need to fix. But I think on a broader scale, you look at the cache quality feedback or the community pulse survey or some of those things that Chris manages, which, we're going out to the community and we're saying, tell us what you think. We want to know. Help us, as an extension better by telling us what it is you want, what it is you don't want, and we're going to try and take all of that information in aggregate, and we're going to try and figure out, what's the real message in there, or what are the real messages. So it's really a number of ways of actively trying to gather that feedback. The other way, as I did mention before, you're right, is when we send lackeys out into the community for mega events and giga events and things like that, and just pay attention, listen, have conversations. You guys get to talk to geocachers all the time. As well as I do, that people love to share their stories. They love to tell you what they think about this game. And so keep your ears open. That's what we're trying to do, is like, pay attention, listen to what this community has to say. And if we're truly paying attention, then we'll have a pretty good idea of the kind of things that we need to do next.
Chris, why don't you take the question from Keats there? Do you want to drop that one in?
Okay. Now, Brian, each company, each industry has some positions that are completely unique to what they do. Could you identify some of the unique job positions at Geocaching HQ? That doesn't, I'm sure Delta Airlines has a position or two that would be different than what Geocaching HQ does because their industries are different. But is there something that you go, oh, you know what? This position is unique. I've never seen anything quite like it outside of geocaching.
You may have stumped me with this one.
Oh,
I'm thinking through the variety of positions that we have, and for the most part, okay, engineers, mobile, web, API, other companies have those. Executive team, finance, legal, HR, certainly other companies have those. Community engagement and marketing and design, sure. Travel and tourism is interesting. The Geo Tours team, it's, I'm not so sure that I'm sure there's other companies who have similar things, partnerships and promotions. Even when it comes to the community volunteer support team, yes, having cache reviewers and forum moderators and translators. Cache reviewers is probably really unique, and so maybe the team that supports them. I guess here's one position. I guess if I have to say one, we have a there's two. There's the appeals team. So like Kathy Hornback, who, when there's maybe a cache owner feels like their cache should have been published and the reviewer said no, or their event should have been published, the reviewer had said no, that goes to appeals. So I dare say we're the only company in the world who has somebody who is reviewing cache appeals and rendering some sort of judgment / assistance. That's one. The second one would be, we have a guest experience coordinator position. So some people would say, oh, who's the person at the front desk? Is that your receptionist? No. That's not how it works. At headquarters, we have a visitor center where, as you know, we are visited by people from all over the world. And the person that's sitting at the front desk is our guest experiences coordinator, who is really responsible for making sure that our visitors get to see get the true experience of what it is to visit headquarters, get to log the cache, get to take photos, get to see some of the really cool trackables like the International Space Station one, get to see what's on the screens. That's another somewhat unique position. So that's what I've got for those two. There's my answer. I can't think of another one, quite honestly.
Those are pretty good answers, and good job, Keats 94. You almost stumped the Prez. That was close.
Almost. That was close.
So, Brian, you knew we were going to have to ask this next question because every podcast you go on, they ask this next question. But we're curious, and the question is, not necessarily asking you to unfold the roadmap, but where do you see the game and the business of geocaching going next?
I guess generally speaking, what I would say is that change is constant all around us. Technology is changing. We know that. As a company, what is it that we do? We serve the community. And how do we do that? We serve it by giving the community a platform. The platform allows people to create, share, and play experiences and adventures in the real world, in a nutshell. And so I think what we need to be focused on as a company is, how do we look at what it means to create, share, and play experiences? And what can we do with technology to give the creators a better tool set so that they can create different kinds of experiences, more robust experiences, share them, and then what does it mean for people to be able to play them? how easy can we make it? How intuitive can we make it? How engaging and compelling can we make it? So I think as a company, what you will see us focused on in the near term and ideally years to come is, how do we serve the community by constantly thinking about the platform that is geocaching.com and the apps and the ecosystem that's supported by the API, the Cachleys and the GSACs and the Project GCs and the Cache Tours and all of these applications, this entire geocaching ecosystem. How is it that we can leverage the changes that are taking place in technology and beyond the realm of technology to improve that platform so that this community has an even greater benefit as we all go forward.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
There's the big vision.
That's what it is.
That's awesome. Chris, do you want to
I think this is our last question.
Okay.
All right.
Take a deep breath. Here you go. The dog's still okay?
Yeah, she's okay.
Okay, good.
She's been very patient. She's been very patient.
So have you. Thank you.
Oh, this is my pleasure, really.
I have to say, this is one of our longest episodes. So
cool.
Thank you very much, Brian, for your time.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. What do you wish that the players of the game most understood about life as a lackey at geocaching.com? I can start off and one of the things is lackeys are not vending machines of tags. They're actual people, and you should say, hi, how are you doing? And engage them in conversation.
That's fair. What I would say we wish people knew, there's probably two things that I would say. The first one is that once a month we have an all company meeting, and we start that meeting by essentially reciting the mission every month. And what we'll do is I'll stand up and I'll greet the lackeys and I'll say, hey, today is so-and-so day. Welcome to the company meeting. And our mission is to inspire and enable discovery, exploration, and adventure. And that is what we want to achieve. And in doing that, I think that it's a good reminder to all of us why we're here and what it is that we're doing. And it's a bit of a mantra, but it is our mission, and everybody knows that. And by starting every company meeting with that mission, again, I think it helps us put our best foot forward. The next thing, and it is of equal importance, I think what we would want everybody to know is that as individuals and as a company, we really care. We really care about the game. We really care about the people, and we really care about what we're trying to do and the impact that we're trying to have as a company and as a community. We make a lot of decisions and things change from time to time, and we know that we cannot please everybody, and regardless of what we do, there's at least somebody out there that's not going to like it. As much as we would love to make everybody happy, it's not exactly realistic. But at the same time, we have the best of intent as a community, and we will continue to do our best to try and improve the platform that we give to the community every day.
There you go. I think there's some great things for people to bear in mind. If you're thinking about applying for a role at HQ, or as Chris said, when you're out in the field and you're lucky enough that a lackey happens to show up at the event you're at, I think there's some great things to keep in mind. So thanks for sharing that with us, Brian.
My pleasure. Yeah, if you're in an event and you see a lackey there, come talk to us. Myself especially. Come say hello. Tell me what you like about the game. Tell me what you don't like. I really do want to know.
Fantastic. Well, we're gonna close the formal part of the show here, Brian. I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you,
guys.
Thank you, sir. We obviously look forward to the next opportunity to meet in person and chat with you. If our listeners wanted to contact you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, one thing I would say is add me on Facebook. I'm on there. If you're a geocacher and as long as you don't have a really scary picture, I normally accept all geocachers. Um, and then really, like, it depends on what you want to contact me for. Um, I've had some occasions where people will contact me on Facebook or even via email and sort of almost like requesting some customer service or some assistance with their GPS device. And the truth is, as much as I would love to have time to do that, I just don't. And so what I would normally do is do my best to respectfully refer them to the community engagement team and the help center and things like that. But come to HQ, come visit. Let Sarah, who's our guest experiences coordinator, let her know that you're there. And if I'm not in the middle of a meeting, I'll come out and say hello. But otherwise, add me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram as well, and I post pictures every now and then. It's nothing too special, but that's probably the best way we can do it.
Fantastic.
Very nice. Well, again, thank you so much. And we want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We've got more coming up. Now, next week, we are going to talk with the Cachly developer, Nick Hubbard. And then December 16th, that's a Sunday. We don't normally record on Sunday, but it's a very special live episode from Victoria. We're doing caching in the Northwest. It's Christmas in the Northwest.
That's right. We're really excited about that. And we're hoping that if you're listening to this episode, you're going to come out and join us there in Victoria at the Land Sharks HQ. And, Brian, if you got any lackeys, you can send up for that event too.
And it's this weekend.
Next weekend. Next weekend. Yeah.
Right. Next weekend. What's the date?
December 16th.
December 16th. Okay. I'll put something out on the Slack channel at HQ.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
And listeners, stay tuned for more great episodes coming up. We've got some more folks from HQ joining us December 20th. We've got Jen and Jeff from HQ. They're going to talk about how to create a geo tour. That's going to be so neat. I mean, a lot of us have done geo tours. We've experienced them. But what does it mean on the back end of it? Like if you're thinking about, wow, a geo tour would be great in this community. So we're going to talk about that with Jen and Jeff. I'm really excited about that. And speaking of geo tours, December 27th, episode 283. Chris, we're almost at 300 episodes.
We're getting to 300.
Thanks, Brian. And that episode is going to be with the Olympic Peninsula Tourism Group. We're going to talk to them about the existing and new Olympic Geo Tour that was it's been in place for a while and just got expanded.
Mm-hmm. And you've just spent some time there, Land Monkey.
I did, and Mr. Ronan did as well. So we've exchanged notes. I think what happens is either he or I does a geo tour first, and then exchanges notes with the other guy. So we got a good tag team system going there.
Love it.
It's always a race. Who's going to get there first? But that's all right. It's a lot of fun. Love and I love caching with that guy too. He's a machine. All right.
He's a machine. He really is.
All right. Well, you know what? I also want to thank our corporate Denali level sponsor. That's Land Sharks. Landsharks.ca is the outdoor adventure and geocaching store. There you go. Check them out online. Visit their store in Victoria, BC, and let them know that Brian gave them some applause on the podcast. All right.
Those guys are awesome.
They
Chris
are
and
awesome.
Helen are the best. They really are.
There you go. Special shout out. We want to thank our faithful Denali level supporters. That's Bounce Bounce, speaking of awesome cache developers, Team Squirrel, Limax, and worldcaching.com. If you want to know more about supporting this show, click on that Patreon link on the cachingw.com website, and we'll read your name out at the end of the podcast, just like this. Broncos fan for life, Sprouter, Camp Clan, Tig Magnet, Kev Mac D, Subway, Mark Dormore, Dune Buddy, Kid Vegas 19, Geo Nav Pros, Wino, Seattle, Acrodoc, Billy Robson, Genies, and Teus Trexture Zero, MC3 Cats, and Kennel Barb. Thank you all.
Wow, Land Monkey, take a breath. But not too big of one, because we want to know where we can find you on the interwebs. You're doing all this stuff. How do we find out about it?
I have a problem. I'm addicted to the interwebs.
We've noticed. We're actually looking for an opportunity to sit down and talk with you about it.
Maybe December 16th.
Hey, that'd be
We
great.
could do something on the internet and talk about my addiction to the internet. All right. Yeah. So Twitter, Instagram, Periscope at LandMonkeyGC, Facebook, you can look for Land Monkey or Team Land Monkey. And we were always posting stuff up there. And of course, our YouTube channel where we are doing our geocaching adventures around the world. We're just working on the last episode from our Baltic tour. So that's Riga, Latvia. I'm putting a little extra time into the editing and development of that episode. So it's taking a little longer to get out, but it's on its way, folks. So definitely check us out on YouTube, follow us there, and check out what it's like to go on a geocaching tour around the world with a land monkey. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, please follow us there. We appreciate it. And I'd be remiss if I didn't do my usual jingle that I've started doing now. So it's LANMONKEY, Land Monkey on YouTube. There you go. All right. And Chris of the Northwest, where do people find you?
I love your new audio jingle. That's well done. You have your own audio trademark.
Do you have one, Chris? You got to.
No, I don't. I don't have one, and you probably don't want to hear me sing. In fact, I have a choir director who pays me to stay out of the choir, but that's a different story. You can find me on Twitter. There's no music involved. Facebook, also no music involved. And you can head on over to Instagram at Caching in the Northwest. But most of all, we want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Caching in the Northwest. Don't forget that you can be part of the show. Call 253-693-TFTC. Leave us a comment, ask a question, loan us some skis any time of the day or night. Of course, you can always email us at feedback@cachingnw.com. Your support helps keep quality shows coming. If you like this show, click that Patreon link right there on the cachingnw.com website and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. This show's produced by Chris Umfenauer and Jay Kennedy, hosted by Chris, Jay, and Jim Paulwitz. The show's licensed under Creative Commons Attributions 3.0 license, copyright 2018 by Chris Umfenauer. And now we ask you to stay tuned for the after show. And folks, I think the after show is going to be quite short this evening because we've already gone far longer than we normally do before we even hit the after show. Oh,
Brian, you've been a good sport to hang in this long, man.
It's my pleasure. It really is.
All right. So Chris, we had your bear story. Do you want to do the short version of your bear story?
I'm going to do a very short version of the bear story. On our honeymoon, my wife and I went up to Vancouver area. I can't remember exactly where. We rented bikes. And as we were riding around some trails, there was a little crest of a hill. And I thought, I'll just ride up here and see if it's worth going this way. And I rode up to the crest of the hill and I was looking around and go, no, not a whole lot. And I hear scratching on a tree next to me. And I go, oh, what cute little woodland creature do we have here? And no more than 4 feet away, I'm looking at a black bear who's got his paw up on the tree trunk. He's looking right at me. I'm like, okay. I'm going to very calmly turn my bike around. And I started riding. And this is my brand new bride. We've only been married a week. And I'm like, get on your bike and ride. And she goes, well, where are we going? Ride. And she could tell by my facial expression and tone of voice, she just didn't ask, she rode. And we, went 100 yards or so, and I could stop, turn around and look. And the bear was exactly in the middle of the road where I was sniffing. So yeah, she goes, okay, I'll listen to you from this point on.
Good way to start the marriage.
I earned trust with my wife. Yeah.
So Chris, that was up in the North Shore Mountains, right? It's
yeah.
You're just outside. Brian, have you had the opportunity to cache in the North Shore Mountains in Vancouver?
No, I have not yet.
Okay, we'll have to get you up here and get you out there, but it's
not every experience will be a bear experience.
Well, it is bear interface country though, and that's the thing. Is so a lot of my caching friends and myself, we carry bear spray because it's you run into them.
Land Monkey, you just used a new term I've never heard of: bear interface country.
Oh yeah,
I hadn't heard that one either.
Yeah. Common language here.
Bear interface.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. Brian, we had a question for you from Startcatcher. He wants to know if that's mistletoe over your head.
No, it's just the plant.
There you go. Looks like a fern.
It does. I think it is a fern.
There you go. There you go, Startcatcher.
There you go.
And we had a comment from IHAM to, speaking of bear stories, he said the problem with having a memorial cache, remember I was suggesting that you
Yes,
could,
yes, yes.
He said, the problem with having a memorial cache is that you're too dead to enjoy the honor.
Any sort of memorial.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a little too dead.
Just
yeah.
You're mostly dead.
Mostly. I knew you were going to say.
Somebody had to go there.
Liar! Liar!
You're just pining for the fjords. All right.
Oh, goodness.
Chris, do you want to take the comment from?
Oh, yes. Speaking of memorials, we have a little memorial here. And we have to say farewell to Keats 94 streak. He made it to 425 days. It's been an adventure, bittersweet to let it go, but it's taught me a lot of things about myself that will take me through life. So,
you know, I have never heard anybody make that comment about ending a geocaching streak. I've heard the first part before of, it's bittersweet to let it go, farewell to my streak, but that it's taught me a lot of things about myself that I can take with me through life is a really, Brian, I think that comment from Keats about ending his geocaching streak really goes back to what you're saying about earlier in the show about the culture that you're trying to maintain around the game.
That's right.
mm-hmm.
That's right. It's a good example.
There you go, Keats. Nice work.
Keats, congratulations. 425 days is incredible to maintain a geocaching streak.
Awesome. We got one more question that we're going to ask. And Brian, I don't know if you're going to have the answer to this. So this might be one of those, let me take it back to the office questions. But we have a question that is, who picked out the caches for the Air Transat Geo Tour promotion? Because we understand with that promotion, the trackables were to be placed in one cache for each of the 3 Geo Tours. So that's the question. Do you know offhand who happened to be no?
Okay. I do not know, but you know who will know?
Who's that?
Jen and Jeff will know when they're on your next show. So tune in on whatever date that was, and you'll get your answer.
There you go. Yeah, so a couple of weeks from now.
Right on.
Awesome. There it is, December 20th. I had to scroll back up to look myself. I couldn't have pulled you the date, but December 20th, show 282.
There we go. So we'll ask that question again. Awesome.
Perfect.
Brian, thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk with you and to, not ask you a bunch of questions about how long you've been geocaching or, how the game started, but digging more into the business side. Chris and I have been fascinated about it for a while, and we really appreciate you spending the time to prep for those answers for those questions and digging into it with us.
It's my pleasure, really. Thanks for being curious and giving me a chance to share the story.
Well, Brian, we're going to end the podcast. We're going to let you go because we know you have to sit in front of a screen for another 5 to 6 hours tomorrow. So,
oh yes.
So right. The joys of that are calling. So
cool.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure. And thanks to everybody for tuning into this podcast.
Thank you. And folks, until next week, get out and get caching in the Northwest.